This is Bill Hartzer, and this is the Digital Marketing Podcast with Bill Hartzer today. And I have the pleasure of having Tommy Butler from Glasgow.com here. Welcome, Tommy, and tell me a little bit about yourself and your background, how you got into the digital marketing, internet world, and domain names and websites and so forth.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for having us.
Sure.
I got into this industry about 22 years ago. Started up looking for a career change as I was running a printing business in Glasgow, and came across some info about domain names. Done a course on HTML, and started up a web design business. And it was probably one of the best moves I've ever done. And after 22 years, I still love it. I still get the buzz, and I love the changes that have happened over the last 22 years that I've been in the industry. And since then, we sort of new work on strategies, buying domain names, developing them, etc., building up the traffic, and that's basically what we're still doing at this moment in time. So that's roughly what we do.
Sure, I started back in the late 90s, creating my own websites and had a small internet business, but then sold my first domain name back in 1998, I think for about $26,000, which was hotresume.com. And the owner has never, after all these years, almost 20 something years, they still have not put a website on that domain name, but it's one of those names that my first original domain name, I'd like to buy it back at some point. But certainly that there have been a lot of changes over the years, and I guess the biggest change lately has been with the addition of the all these new TLDs, and certainly we had basically the CC, country code TLDs and .com, .net, .org, and certainly in the United States we are focused on .com, .net, in .org, primarily .com domains. And it's but what has been your experience? Do you think the values of the CCTLDs and .coms have gone up in value or remained the same since we have all these, now we have 1,200 other choices, now. What has been your experience?
My experience is that the .com is rising up in value and continues to go up in value at a rate that just blows you away when you consider what a 3-letter domain name sells for. When you look at some of the names that they're selling for, it just, you cannot believe that they're now selling for those sort of prices. If you look at the UK market, it's crashed.
Sure.
Sort of thing, the .co.uk with the .uk, I think that's one of the reasons why that market has crashed, which is a shame, but business is business, it's that's why I think the .com is now the global brand, and everybody really wants a good quality .com. There is nice ones like .tv and stuff like that, which are quite quirky and really, really good. Sort of thing. Also the .cos, I've had a couple of .cos as well, and I've sold one or two .cos, which has been quite interesting. But I think the focus is the .com market, and the amount of drops that are there on a daily basis. I think there's a great potential to pick up some very, very nice names.
Sure, there definitely has been changes, and I think that we're seeing also what we're seeing right now is the fact that my prediction is because of so many businesses have changed, or a lot of them have probably gone out of business or will go out of business globally, depending on an example would be a small resort, or a small resort, maybe they have 10 or 12 rooms, something like that, at a great beach location, but the past 6 months they have not had, or close to had any visitors, and they just cannot afford to continue with so they they may close up or may change or may sell their property altogether, and so we may see their domain name, they may not renew their website, their hosting, their website may go down, they may not renew their domain at a certain time. There may be a delay. It could be up to maybe 6 months or a year or two. And we see all these really great names start to drop because of the changes. Because of the changes just in business. Um,
I would agree with that, Bill. We've picked up some very nice names in the last couple of months. One of the names that we picked up a few years back was carcassandcastle.com, and Carcass and Castle is one of the top 10 French tourist attractions. And in between Carcass and Castle and a place called Cap d'Agde, there's a small town called Agde, and we visited the town. And obviously, I wanted to get the domain name Agde Hotel, but it was owned by one of the local hoteliers. Now, about last year, that company, the hotel, went belly up, and we picked up the name auction Agde Hotel, which was perfect for our strategy because we also had Cap d'Agde Hotel and Cap d'Agde Hotels. So as a strategy of that network, and I think about 2 months ago, I picked up hotelssaint-tropez.com, at auction, which was a 14, 16-year-old domain, which I know before would never have been thingied, but obviously someone let it drop, and I was straight in there with a bid and went, I want that one, buy it now, get it, just don't care. And I was pleased to get that. And I'm finding at the moment there is a lot of nice names like that are starting to drop, and it's just a case of going through all the lists, keeping your eye out, and you'll pick up those gems, sort of thing, because there's quite a lot of them happening, and it's a great way of getting into the industry, looking out for those nice wee gems of domains.
Sure, definitely. What I like to do, is start to look at, back ordering a lot of domains. I know that I do a fair amount of back orders on NameJet and GoDaddy and some of these others. Any names that I, in particular that I've seen that either a business is closing or going going bankrupt. They may still have their main domain, but that's when a lot of times when times get tough, their whole a company that might have 1,000 names, they might start dropping a lot of their names that they're not currently using, and so as they cut back and look at their their whole portfolio of names, some corporations own a lot of names. So there's a lot of, going to be a lot of opportunities. My prediction is probably in the next, maybe it's kind of starting now, but in the next 6 months to 1 year to 2 years, because a lot of names, get renewed every year, or they might renew them for 2 years. So that might, now that this the time to probably start looking around and paying attention to a lot of these, because they're especially so what are the so you mentioned earlier when we were talking before the show that specifically about not just getting the domain name but also getting others. What is your strategy as far as maybe getting the the Twitter the Twitter handle and the Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the social media accounts? Does that add value to when you go to sell the domain?
I think it adds a lot of value to the name, because to me it's an add-on. It adds value. It definitely adds value, and it also adds value because if you've got the Twitter account, the Instagram account, the LinkedIn company page, all the social media accounts, each one of those will have its different followers, 700 followers here, 2,000 followers there. When a buyer is looking at that, they're already sitting there going, right, you've got 1,000 followers on that one, you've got 2,000 followers on that. That's a customer base, no matter what way you look at it. So to me, it is really important now to build those sort of thing, and that's one of the things I love doing. Certain days I will sit for an hour or 2 hours and tweet that one, lift from that one, post on that one, just to get it, keep putting it out and building the brand of the domain name, because everything reverts back to the domain name. And I also think from an SEO point of view, you get the Google points and everything else, but for branding, it's absolutely perfect. For the industries that I'm in, it's totally crucial to have them, because if you've got them, it's just like domains, whereupon if you've got them, other people can't get them. And that's what makes it more unique. We having those sort of accounts matching the domain name. To me, it's a win-win for everyone involved.
Sure. In fact, there probably would be a great, here's a great tool idea. And when that when you search for domain names that are available, it would be great to be able to know whether or not the matching Instagram and Twitter and so forth are also available.
That would be a fantastic tool, Bill. There's a programmer. I hope a programmer's listening to this, because that is a market.
Yes.
Can you imagine just look at the domain name, press the button, and it goes available. That account's not been used for 5 years. That account's not been used for 4 years. Oh, that would be some fantastic tool to have. It really would.
Sure.
So I see a definite value in that.
Yes, definitely. It probably, certainly could be done by API, and certainly, and so forth, and as well. But yeah, so that would be a good opportunity. But yes, I see, if I am starting business, or I am starting, now I'm business, or rebranding a company, or, changing the name of my hotel, or, doing something like that, then, and looking around for, the domain, that is the difficult part, is to find one that has all of the, the Twitter, the Instagram, and Facebook page and everything. So as you're building out, and buying domains, you could probably take your current portfolio and go see if the Twitter, the handle, and all those others are available, because that would definitely add value. And that's, so, but it also is a good sales tactic as well, as if you're selling the domain and they're interested in the domain and in that domain, you can give them a price, but then you can say, oh, by the way, we also have the matching Twitter and Instagram and so forth. And that, that might be enough to get them to, to buy the .com or do the deal, because that is also always available.
Yeah, it's. I'll give you a story here. A couple of years back, I bought the domain name Cumbria.com, which is the Lake District in England, a major tourist place. Sure. And I sold the domain name to Ian, who sold his domain portfolio, I think, to GoDaddy a few years back. And then an Australian domainer bought Cumbria.com, I think, last year. I think the site's been developed, and he contacted me on LinkedIn. And when he told me that he had bought Cumbria, I had set up the original @Cumbria Twitter account. So I said to him, set up the email address info@Cumbria, request the password, and you'll have the Twitter account. And he was like, Tommy, he says, I've been trying to figure out who had that Twitter account. He says, and he got back to me a couple of days later and said, Tommy, thanks very much. He says, I've got the Twitter account matching the domain name. And, and that just made it added value, because obviously people that are maybe looking to go to Cumbria or whatever else, and the fact that he had it added value to his domain name. So I like trying to get the core generic Twitter accounts and LinkedIn pages, because obviously when you type in the LinkedIn pages, the generic term, it gets picked up as well. So I love all those wee things like that, which bring in extra traffic and visitors, and that to me is what it's all about, Bill.
Sure. Good you mentioned that, because what I do is when I do buy a domain name, especially expire domain name or register one, I always set up a catch-all email address, and forward that, and forward that over to a Gmail account. And because Gmail can catch all the spam and so forth, pretty good. But because you never know what emails or you know what email email traffic is on that particular domain, from the previous owner.
Yeah.
I have been uh, you know that's something that
I,
I normally do.
I normally go into archive.org and have a look to see the history of the domain name. One of the names I bought a couple of months back was, I think was it girlholiday.com.
Mhm.
When I looked at it, it was run as a blog site for a 22-year-old who was traveling all over the place, and sure enough, they've got the Twitter account and everything else. And I thought, what a brilliant name. The person's been using it as a blog. And it had the Twitter account and all that thing made up. And I'm amazed at the amount of businesses that sort of just drop domain names because it's not part of their strategy any longer.
Sure.
One that we picked up, there's a place in Spain called, it's in the Canaries, called Costa Deque. And I picked up the name costadequehotel.com. And sure enough, set up the catch-all account, and there it was, the Twitter account, there, everything was there. Now, I thought the hotel had made a mistake, contacted the hotel and said, did you let this name go by accident? If you let it go by accident, you could gladly have the name. And they got back to us and said, no, we were told by our marketing department to drop our names because we're getting a company page on the company website. I went, that's madness. And so, like you say, sometimes domains don't drop, but the company policy is just to maybe change things depending on the marketing departments that they have in. And to me, that was suicide, dropping a name like that for a geographical location. There was a 9-year-old domain name at the time. So I like doing things like that.
Yeah, so it definitely can be a problem because especially with a rebrand, if you can change your company name, and you probably should, even the old domain name and domain names that you have, there may be email addresses, there may be emails, there may be traffic, links from other websites. So unfortunately, so this, the best strategy that I have found is to just continue, I guess the cost of doing business, to just continue to renew that domain name, even though it's been, even though it's been 5 or 10 years since you have changed your company name or rebranded, but you still, probably would not, uh, you know, probably would not drop the name. But I have seen so many that have, and they just don't see, they don't see uh, the potential. There's also potential security risks as well. If there are emails that, still going to those old email addresses or so forth. And so I have been, been able to, to help some companies, with generic names that I've bought that they, they didn't realize there was still email going to certain ones. And I've set up forwarders for certain, certain companies that, because I'm not interested in the email right now, but the, I have the domain name. So yes, good.
Yeah,
Uh,
I totally agree with that. It's we've set up, as I say, catch-alls as well, and some of the stuff you get with the catch-alls is absolutely amazing. That there is a couple of companies globally that are called Glasgow, and one seems to be in Venezuela, which is a drinks company, and we've had their bank checks for about 230 million Venezuelan, whatever it is.
sure.
We've had orders, and on our hotel sites, sometimes people will send us their credit card details with their PIN number, and I'm sitting there going,
Sure.
this is madness. sort of things. So some of the stuff that I've seen, you know, is astounded me with what people actually scan and send you, and you sit there and go, you've just given me your card details with your PIN number and everything else. That, you know, because they think you're a hotel or whatever else, and it's just absolutely crazy, you know. And we reply back to them and say, look, your sentence is by mistake. But we get a lot of emails with, you know, somebody's put an S at the end or missed an S at the end, and before you know it, you get a lot of private and confidential stuff as well, which, you know, you didn't inform the person, like you've sent this that by mistake, and you go, oh, thanks very much, you know. So yeah, it does happen.
Yes, I have actually had issues. I have some domains that have the word BANK bank in the domain names, and you know, but it's not, you know, it's not part of the word, you know, it's just in the middle of the domain name. It's not, and I've actually had issues getting SSL certificates for those, for certain, you know, for certain domain names that have certain keywords that always trip a filter when you go to apply, get the SSL certificate for the, you know, for certain domains, but which is, you know, but you know, in certain cases, you know, which is good that they're checking,
Yeah.
you know, but especially with the SSL certificates. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I had one bank name. In fact, I've got one bank name just now, which will list all the banks, list all the banks in Glasgow, and that's glasgowbanks.co.uk. But we had another one, and we sold that to an American organisation, not knowing that it ever existed. But they contacted us about 6 years ago and said, "You've got our bank name," and we went, "No, it was just a generic term," and we sold them that with a non-disclosure agreement. So. But it got a lot of traffic and a lot of problem traffic as well, because obviously you get people trying to hack it because they think it's a bank site.
Sure.
You know, so yeah, so they cause a bit of trouble now and again, you know.
All right, so we're just about out of time for this afternoon. So thanks again for spending the time with me this afternoon on the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast. Again, this is Tommy Butler from Glasgow.com. How do we get in touch with you?
Very easy. You can contact me by email, tommy@glasgow.com. You can follow me at Glasgow on Twitter. You can contact me on LinkedIn, Tommy Butler. I also run the Glasgow LinkedIn group, the pubs LinkedIn group, and e-commerce retailing group on LinkedIn. And my Gmail account is domainscott@gmail.com. If you also want to email me on that as well. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. This has been the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for Thursday, 23rd of July, 2020. Thanks again, Tommy Butler. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul, for having me. Totally enjoyed it. Good fun.